Hello, friend. Welcome to Science for Sleep. Whether you're returning tonight or just finding this channel for the first time, this is a quiet place to slow down, learn something gentle, and let the day gradually fall away. Tonight, we're drifting into the deep ocean to meet one of the strangest real animals on Earth, the giant squid. For hundreds of years, people told stories about huge sea creatures with long arms rising from dark water. Sailors crossing the North Atlantic spoke of the Kraken, a creature said to be large enough to frighten ships and pull fear from even the bravest crews. In old stories from Norway and Iceland, the Kraken was not described like a normal fish or whale. It was something stranger, something with reaching limbs, something that seemed to belong to the black water below the boat, not the bright world above it. For a long time, stories like these were treated as legend, and many parts of them were legend. But buried inside the fear was a quiet piece of truth. For a creature that haunted sea stories for centuries, the giant squid became scientifically visible surprisingly late. It was given its scientific name in 1857. But even then, scientists mostly knew it from dead bodies, stranded remains, and hard beaks found inside sperm whales. A living giant squid was not photographed in its natural deep-sea world until 2004. And it was not filmed alive in that world until 2012. That means this animal moved from legend to living footage within the lifetime of many people alive today. Something once imagined as a sea monster became a real, moving animal on camera only very recently. There really was an enormous squid living far below the surface. Not a monster, not a ship-sinking beast. A real animal with a soft body, powerful arms, huge eyes, and a life shaped by darkness. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, you're welcome to subscribe. And if it feels natural, to leave a comment sharing where you're listening from tonight. It helps others find their way to this calm corner of the world, one sleepy traveler at a time. The giant squid belongs to a group of animals called cephalopods. That word means head-foot, because animals like squid, octopuses, and cuttlefish have their arms attached near the head. A giant squid has 8 arms and 2 much longer feeding tentacles. Those 2 tentacles can stretch far beyond the rest of the body, which is one reason the animal can seem so impossibly long. Some adult giant squid are estimated to reach around 40 feet in total length when those feeding tentacles are included. That is longer than a school bus. But unlike a whale, most of that length is not thick, heavy body. It is reach. It is softness. It is arms and tentacles fading outward like pale ribbons in cold water. The main body of the squid is called the mantle. The mantle is the long, muscular part behind the head. Inside it are the organs, and from it, the squid can push water to move through the sea. At the center of the arms is a hard beak, shaped a little like a parrot's beak. This beak is one of the toughest parts of the animal, and it can remain after the softer body has broken down. That matters because for much of human history, scientists did not know the giant squid from watching it swim. They knew it from pieces. A long tentacle washed onto a shore. A pale body found floating at the surface. Hard beaks discovered in the stomachs of sperm whales. The ocean was giving science clues, but not the whole animal. and that made the giant squid feel even more mysterious. Imagine standing on a rocky coast in the 1800s and seeing part of a strange creature lying in the surf. The skin is slick, the arms are lined with round suckers, the eye is larger than anything expected from an ordinary animal. There is no living movement left, only the evidence that something huge had come from somewhere far below. It would not be hard to understand why people once reached for myth. Before cameras, submarines, and deep-sea research vessels, the deep ocean was almost impossible to picture. People knew the surface. They knew waves, storms, fog, and the wooden sides of ships creaking at night. But below that surface, the water dropped away for hundreds and sometimes thousands of feet. No sunlight, no familiar landscape, only pressure, cold, and distance. A creature living there could pass through human history, almost like a rumor. And that is what makes the giant squid so perfect for a quiet journey like this. It begins as a legend, but it does not stay there. The more carefully it is studied, the more real it becomes. Its long tentacles are not decorations from a sea story. They are tools for catching prey. Its huge eyes are not there to frighten sailors. They help it gather faint light in the dim ocean. Its hidden life is not magic. It is biology taking place in a part of Earth where humans rarely go. And still, even after all we have learned, something about the giant squid remains unfinished. An animal can be real and still feel almost impossible. A creature can have a Latin name, a measured body, a known family, and preserved specimens in museums, yet still carry the silence of the deep sea around it. The giant squid reminds us that Earth still has places where very large things can live quietly, almost unseen. And as we follow it downward, away from the old stories and toward the real animal, the mystery does not disappear. It simply changes shape. The deeper the giant squid's world becomes, the less it belongs to ordinary human experience. At the surface, the ocean can seem open and familiar. There are waves, foam, moonlight, seabirds, ships, and the sound of water moving against the hull. But below that restless skin, the sea begins to change layer by layer. Sunlight does not travel through water the way it travels through air. Water absorbs light quickly, especially the red and orange parts of sunlight. By about 200 meters down, the ocean has entered a dim region called the twilight zone. This is also called the mesopelagic zone. It is not completely black, but it is far too dark for the bright colors and sharp edges of the surface world. A fish may appear only as a faint shape. A moving body may be seen more as a shadow than as a clear animal. Below about 1,000 meters, sunlight is essentially gone. The ocean becomes a world of darkness, broken only by living light from animals that glow through chemical reactions inside their bodies. This living light is called bioluminescence. It can appear as tiny blue sparks, glowing dots, or slow pulses in the black water. For an animal like the giant squid, this means the world is not empty. It is full of signals. A flash from a small fish, a shimmer from a jellyfish, a faint disturbance caused by something large moving nearby. But for humans, that same world is extremely hard to enter. Every 10 meters of seawater adds about one more atmosphere of pressure. At 100 meters, the pressure is around 10 times stronger than at the surface. At 1,000 meters, it is around 100 times stronger. That pressure presses from every direction. It can crush air-filled spaces, damage equipment, and make even simple observation difficult. A land animal can leave footprints in mud, bones in a cave, fur on a branch, or a clear trail through grass. A deep-sea animal may leave almost nothing where a person can easily find it. The giant squid does not walk across open ground. It does not nest in a tree. It does not pass through forests where cameras can be tied to trunks. It lives in a moving, three-dimensional world where there are no roads, no walls, no fixed paths, and very few landmarks. Even finding the right place to look is difficult. The open ocean is wide, deep, and constantly shifting. A research vessel may lower cameras into the water, but those cameras are only watching one tiny piece of a huge dark room. A giant squid could be a few hundred meters away, and the camera might never know. It could pass above, below, or behind the light. It could remain just outside the narrow cone of vision. For most of history, this made the giant squid almost unreachable. People could study deer, wolves, bears, and birds because those animals shared the visible world with us. Even rare mountain animals could be followed by tracks, droppings, nests, or local sightings. But the giant squid lived where ordinary senses failed. It was hidden not because it was magical, but because its home protected it. Cold protected it. Depth protected it. Darkness protected it. Distance protected it. The ocean itself became a curtain. And behind that curtain, the giant squid could grow, hunt, escape, and die with almost no human witness. This is why deep-sea animals can remain unknown for so long. They may be large, but size alone does not make them easy to find. A blue whale rises to breathe at the surface, where people can see its back, its blow, and its tail. A giant squid does not need to come up for air. It can spend its life below the reach of storms, below the usual nets, below the old wooden ships that once carried stories across the sea. So for centuries, the animal existed in a strange space between fact and rumor. Real enough to leave pieces behind, hidden enough to resist being understood. And when science could not watch the giant squid alive, it had to wait patiently for the ocean to return small pieces of the mystery to shore. So the giant squid entered science in pieces, not as a living animal moving calmly through black water, not as a clear shape crossing in front of a camera, but as strange remains found at the edge of the sea. A torn arm on a beach, a pale body floating near the surface, a hard beak taken from the stomach of a sperm whale. This is a very different kind of evidence from the kind people are used to seeing on land. A deer can leave hoof prints in soft mud. A bear can scratch the bark of a tree. A bird can drop feathers below a nest. Even long after death, a land animal may leave a skeleton that keeps its basic shape. Bones can rest in caves, riverbeds, deserts, or frozen ground for thousands of years. A squid does not leave that kind of clear frame behind. Its body is mostly soft tissue. Its arms, mantle, fins, and skin can be damaged quickly by waves, scavengers, bacteria, and time. When a giant squid dies, the ocean begins changing it almost at once. Fish may feed on it. Currents may twist it. The skin may loosen, the arms may stretch, the tentacles may break. By the time it reaches a shore, it may look less like an animal and more like a message that has been partly erased. That made early study difficult. A scientist looking at a stranded giant squid was often looking at something incomplete. The body might be swollen from decay. The tentacles might be missing. The eyes might be damaged. The mantle might be torn open. Even the size could be hard to trust, because soft tissue can stretch after death. Still, these remains mattered. They gave science something solid to examine. In 1857, the Danish zoologist Japetus Steenstrup gave the giant squid its scientific name, Archeology dux. The name helped move the animal out of pure legend and into biology. It could now be placed in a real group, studied, compared, and discussed by scientists. The word Archeology means something like chief squid, and dux means leader. Even the name carries a sense of size and importance. Through the 1800s, more specimens began to appear. Some washed ashore in Newfoundland. Others appeared near Norway, New Zealand, and other cold ocean regions. These discoveries were rare, but each one added another piece. A preserved arm could show the round suckers. A beak could reveal the hard mouth hidden inside the soft body. A damaged eye could show how large its vision organs could become. A mantle could help measure the true body, apart from the long tentacles. One of the strangest clues came from sperm whales. Sperm whales dive deep and feed on squid. Inside their stomachs, whalers and scientists sometimes found squid beaks. These beaks survive digestion because they are made of a tough material called chitin. Chitin is also found in insect shells and crab shells. It is strong, light, and hard to break down. So while the soft parts of a squid may vanish, the beak can remain like a small, dark record of what the whale has eaten. Some sperm whales also carry round scars on their skin. These marks are often linked to squid suckers pressing against the whale during deep water encounters. The scars do not show the whole event. They do not show the chase, the struggle, or the darkness around it. But they show contact. They suggest that somewhere far below the surface, whale and squid met in the cold water. And slowly, piece by piece, the giant squid became undeniable. Not because people had watched its daily life, not because anyone had followed it through the deep, but because too many clues pointed to the same animal. The beaks were real, the arms were real, the stranded bodies were real, the scars on whales were real. Science could no longer treat the giant squid as only a sailor's story. But proof is not the same as understanding. A dead body on a beach can tell the shape of an animal. A beak in a whale's stomach can tell that it was eaten. A scar can tell that contact happened. None of these clues can show how the giant squid floated in the dark, how it held its arms, how fast it moved, or how it sensed prey passing nearby. The ocean had given back evidence, but it had not yet given back the living animal. The living animal begins to take shape when the clues are placed together. Not as a monster rising from the sea, not as a broken body on the shore, but as a squid, built from parts that all have a purpose. The main body is the mantle. It is the long, soft, muscular section behind the head. In a giant squid, the mantle can be several feet long, shaped a little like a pale torpedo. Inside it are the organs that keep the animal alive. The mantle also helps the squid move. A squid pulls water into its body, then pushes it out through a tube called a siphon. This jet of water can move the squid backward through the sea. It is not like a fish swimming with a side-to-side tail. It is more like a soft animal using water pressure to glide, turn, and escape. Near the end of the mantle are two fins. They are not huge like the wings of a ray. They are smaller, gentle-looking fins that help with balance and slow movement. In the darkness, these fins may help the squid hold its place without wasting much energy. Then comes the head. The head holds the eyes, the brain, and the mouth. Around that mouth are 8 arms and 2 longer feeding tentacles. The arms are shorter and thicker. They are lined with suckers that can grip, pull, and hold. The 2 feeding tentacles are different. They can stretch much farther than the arms, reaching out into the dark water like long, pale ropes. At the ends of these tentacles are wider sections called clubs. These clubs carry rows of suckers, and some of those suckers have hard rings with tiny tooth-like edges. They are not teeth in the way a shark has teeth. They are more like gripping tools. They help the squid hold onto slippery prey in cold water, where a fish could twist away in an instant. This is part of what makes the giant squid look so much longer than it really is. The central body may be large, but the full length comes from reach. When people say a giant squid may reach around 40 feet, much of that distance is the long tentacles extending beyond the main body. It is a creature stretched into the shape of a hunter, a soft body at the center, long tools reaching outward, suckers waiting to close around movement. At the center of all those arms sits the beak. This beak is one of the hardest parts of the squid. It is dark, curved, and sharp, a little like the beak of a parrot. But instead of cracking seeds, it cuts food into pieces small enough to pass into the squid's throat. That matters because the squid's throat passes through a ring-shaped brain. If food were swallowed in pieces that were too large, it could harm the animal from inside. So the beak does careful work. It slices. It tears. It makes a large prey animal small enough to swallow. Just behind the mouth is a rough tongue-like organ called a radula. A radula is covered in tiny tooth-like structures. It helps scrape and pull food inward after the beak has cut it. This hidden feeding system is one reason the giant squid feels so strange. From the outside, it looks soft and flowing. But at the center is a precise cutting tool. Inside the body, there is also a thin support structure called a gladius, or pen. It is not a backbone. Squid do not have bones like mammals, birds, or fish. The gladius is a flexible internal structure made of chitin, the same kind of strong material found in insect shells and crab shells. It gives the body some support while still allowing the squid to remain soft and bendable. That softness is important. A hard skeleton would make life in deep water very different. The giant squid does not need to stand on land. It does not need legs to hold its weight. The water supports it from every side, so its body can be long, flexible, and almost ghost-like. A body like this makes sense in the open deep. It can drift. It can turn. It can reach. It can fold its arms inward or send its tentacles outward. It is not built for the solid world of rocks, trees, and ground. It is built for a dark space where prey appears suddenly, where pressure presses evenly, and where a soft animal can become large without needing heavy bones. And once that shape becomes clear, the giant squid feels less like an accident of legend. It begins to look like an answer. A body shaped by water, darkness, and hunger, stretched into a form that raises a quieter mystery. Why would the deep ocean reward such size at all? Size in the ocean does not mean the same thing. It means on land. On land, a very large animal must carry its own weight. An elephant needs thick legs, strong bones, broad feet, and huge muscles just to stand. A whale would collapse under its own weight if it were placed on dry ground for long. But in water, the body is supported from every side. The sea holds the animal up. It does not remove the cost of being large, but it changes the rules. A giant squid does not need legs. It does not need a heavy skeleton. It does not need to push against the ground. Its soft body can hang in the water, held by the same deep sea that hides it. This is one reason unusual size can appear in the ocean again and again. There are giant isopods in the deep Atlantic and Pacific, relatives of pillbugs that can grow more than a foot long. There are Japanese spider crabs with legs that can span more than 12 feet from claw to claw. There are deep-sea amphipods, shrimp-like animals that grow far larger than their shallow water relatives. Scientists call this pattern deep-sea gigantism. It simply means that some animals living in deep water grow much larger than similar animals closer to the surface. The reasons are still studied, but a few patterns appear again and again. Cold water can slow the body down. A slower body may use energy more carefully. In the deep sea, food is often scattered, so an animal may go long periods without a meal. Larger bodies can sometimes store more energy and travel farther between feeding chances. Cold water also holds more dissolved oxygen than warm water. Dissolved oxygen is the oxygen mixed into water, the way air is mixed into the space around us. For animals that breathe through gills, this can matter. It may help support larger bodies in some deep or cold environments. For the giant squid, size may offer several quiet advantages. A larger squid is harder for small predators to attack. It can handle larger prey. It can stretch long feeding tentacles into the water and reach something without moving its whole body too much. That matters in a place where energy is precious. Chasing prey across open water can be expensive. Waiting, drifting, sensing movement, and striking with long tentacles may save energy. The squid's size also changes how it moves through the ocean. A tiny animal is pushed around easily by small currents. A larger animal has more mass and may hold a steadier path in open water. Its fins can make small adjustments. Its mantle can pulse water through the siphon when it needs a stronger movement. Its arms can gather in or spread slightly, changing the shape of the body in the dark. But the giant squid is not giant in the same way a blue whale is giant. A blue whale may reach nearly 100 feet and weigh more than 150 tons. Its body is thick, warm-blooded, and powered by huge muscles and lungs. A giant squid is long, but much lighter. Much of its famous length comes from the two feeding tentacles. The mantle, head, and arms form the central animal, while the tentacles turn that animal into a long-reaching hunter. So its size is partly a matter of distance. A body that can stay back, a set of tentacles that can reach forward, a mouth that waits at the center. This makes the giant squid feel less like a massive wall of flesh and more like a living tool shaped by the deep. Every part extends the animal's ability to survive in a place where prey may be rare and danger may arrive from below, above, or behind. Large size can be protection. It can be reach. It can be patience. It can be a way of saving energy in a world where every movement has a cost. But no body plan is free. The same length that helps a giant squid hunt also means more tissue to feed, more oxygen to move, more growth to support, and more risk if food becomes scarce. The deep ocean may reward size, but it also asks the animal to pay for every inch. Every inch of the giant squid must be kept alive. The long mantle, the heavy arms, the two feeding tentacles stretching out into the dark, the eyes, the nerves, the muscles, the gills, and the organs all need oxygen and energy. A small animal can survive on small meals. A large animal needs more. But the deep ocean does not offer food the way a shallow reef does. There are no bright coral gardens filled with constant motion. There are no sunlit beds of seagrass. There are no thick schools of surface fish flashing in warm light. Much of the deep sea is wide, dim, and scattered. Food may appear suddenly, then vanish into darkness. A squid that lives there cannot waste energy all day chasing every faint movement. It has to be careful. It has to wait. It has to make each successful hunt matter. Like other squid, the giant squid breathes with gills. Water passes over the gills, and oxygen moves from the water into the blood. Cephalopods also have an unusual circulatory system. They have 3 hearts. 2 smaller hearts help pump blood to the gills, and a larger central heart pumps oxygen-rich blood through the body. Their blood uses a copper-based molecule called hemocyanin to carry oxygen. In oxygen-rich form, this blood can look bluish instead of red, because copper behaves differently from the iron in human blood. That system works, but it is still tied to the limits of the animal's world. The squid has to move water, pump blood, power muscle, and feed a body that may stretch many meters from the mantle to the tips of the tentacles. Movement also has a price. A squid can use jet propulsion by pulling water into the mantle and forcing it out through the siphon. This can create quick bursts of speed. It is useful for escape and sudden movement. But jetting can use a lot of energy, especially for a large animal. A giant squid cannot behave like a tiny squid darting constantly through shallow water. Its body is too large, and the deep sea is too empty for that kind of restless hunting. So much of its life likely depends on efficiency. Small fin movements, slow drifting, careful positioning, a sudden strike when prey comes close enough. Cold water may help with that slower rhythm. In many deep ocean regions, temperatures can fall to only a few degrees above freezing. Cold slows chemical reactions inside the body. It can reduce how quickly muscles work, how fast digestion happens, and how much energy an animal uses while resting. For a deep-sea hunter, that can be useful. A slower body may burn less fuel between meals, but cold also has a cost. Fast movement becomes harder. Long chases become less practical. The animal has to survive by matching its behavior to the slow, dark place around it. This is part of what makes the giant squid so different from the creatures people once imagined. The old stories made it seem furious and violent, always rising toward ships. But the real animal likely spends much of its life in a quieter balance. A body suspended in water, fins making small corrections, arms hanging near the head, long tentacles ready to extend into the space ahead. It is not built for constant attack. It is built for rare chances. The deep ocean rewards patience because the next meal may not pass by on schedule. A fish may drift close. Another squid may move within reach. A shadow may cross the faint glow of living light. Then, for a brief moment, the quiet body becomes fast. The tentacles shoot outward. The suckers grip. The prey is drawn inward toward the beak. Then the stillness returns. This is the cost of being large in a place where food is spread thin. The giant squid must carry size without spending too much of itself. It must be powerful, but not wasteful. It must be ready, but not restless. Its whole life is a balance between hunger and patience, between the need to move and the need to save energy. And that balance only makes full sense when the animal is placed back where it belongs. Not in legend, not on a beach, but far below the surface, inside a world shaped by darkness, pressure, and distance. Darkness, pressure, and distance are not just background details in the giant squid's life. They are the shape of its world. Near the ocean surface, sunlight can scatter through waves and turn the water blue-green. Small fish flash silver. Plankton drift in bright upper layers. Sea turtles, dolphins, seabirds, and tuna all move through a world still connected to the sky. But as the water deepens, that connection begins to fade. By about 200 meters, the ocean enters the twilight zone. Scientists often call this the mesopelagic zone. It stretches from around 200 meters down to about 1,000 meters. Here, sunlight is still present, but weak. Red light disappears first, then orange and yellow, until the world becomes mostly blue, grey, and shadow. At these depths, clear vision becomes difficult. An animal is not seeing the world the way a bird sees a forest, or a fox sees a field. It is reading hints, a shape passing above, a flicker from a glowing animal, a faint outline against the last traces of light. Below about 1,000 meters, the ocean enters the bathypelagic zone. This is sometimes called the midnight zone. Sunlight no longer reaches it in any useful way. There may be no day or night in the ordinary sense. There is only darkness, interrupted by living light. Many deep-sea animals make light through a chemical reaction inside their bodies. This is called bioluminescence. Some use it to attract prey. Some use it to confuse predators. Some use it to match the faint light above them so their shadows disappear. In this kind of place, light is not constant. It appears in small events. A blue spark, a greenish glow, a sudden flash, then blackness again. For the giant squid, these signals may matter more than color or detail. A small movement can mean prey. A larger disturbance can mean danger. The deep ocean is also shaped by pressure. At sea level, the body feels 1 atmosphere of pressure from the air. Underwater, pressure rises quickly. For every 10 meters of seawater, about 1 more atmosphere presses down. At 200 meters, the pressure is about 20 times greater than at the surface. At 1,000 meters, it is about 100 times greater. This pressure does not come from one direction. It presses from above, below, and every side at once. A human diver cannot simply swim down into that world. Air spaces in the body would be squeezed. Equipment has to be built carefully. Submersibles need strong shells. Cameras need special housings. Even a simple light or cable must survive a place where the water itself becomes a powerful force. But deep-sea animals are not crushed in the same way because their bodies are built for it. Many have soft tissues. Many have few air-filled spaces. Their bodies match the pressure around them. The giant squid, with its soft mantle, flexible arms, and water-supported shape, belongs to this pressure-filled world more naturally than any human machine. Distance adds another layer of difficulty. The ocean is not a flat surface with a hidden floor just beneath it. It is a vast 3-dimensional space. An animal can be above, below, ahead, behind, or far off to the side. A camera lowered into deep water may watch only a small cone of darkness. A giant squid may pass close by and never enter the frame. It may remain just beyond the light, sensing the disturbance without revealing itself. This is why the deep sea changes the meaning of seeing. Seeing clearly matters less than noticing change. A dark shape against faint blue light. A pressure wave moving through the water. A flash of bioluminescence disturbed by something large. A tiny shift in the quiet pattern around the body. The giant squid's world is not empty. It is full of signals too faint for human senses to follow. And in a place where detail disappears, where color fades, where pressure closes around every living thing, one feature begins to feel less strange. Those enormous eyes are not there for wonder alone. They are tools made for the edge of darkness. Those eyes are among the most remarkable parts of the giant squid. In some adult specimens, each eye can reach about 10 inches across. That is roughly the size of a dinner plate. It is larger than the eye of almost any living animal, even larger than the eye of a blue whale. This can seem surprising at first. A blue whale is far heavier than a giant squid. It can weigh more than 100 tons. The giant squid is long, but much lighter, with a soft body and 2 stretched feeding tentacles. Yet the squid has the larger eye. That difference tells us something important. The eye is not simply matching the size of the animal. It is matching the needs of the world around it. In the deep ocean, light is rare. Below the twilight zone, sunlight is no longer useful. There are no bright coral colors, no clear horizon, no sharp line between sea and sky. There is only black water, faint movement, and occasional living light. A small eye can see well in bright places, but in dim places, a larger eye can collect more light. It works a little like a wider window. A small window lets in a small amount of light. A wide window gathers more of what little light is there. For the giant squid, that extra light may be the difference between missing a signal and noticing it in time. The eye itself is built to focus light onto a light-sensitive surface at the back. That surface is called the retina. The retina is where light is turned into nerve signals that the animal's brain can use. In humans, the retina helps form a detailed picture of color, shape, and motion. In the giant squid, the goal is probably different. It may not need a colorful picture. It may need contrast, a change in brightness, a glow moving where there was no glow before, a shadow cutting through faint blue light. The deep sea is full of animals that make bioluminescence. A small fish may flash. A jellyfish may glow. Tiny drifting creatures may produce light when disturbed. This means movement itself can reveal an animal. If something large passes through the water, it may cause small glowing organisms to light up around it. The glow could spread like a pale outline in the darkness. Not a clear picture, not a face, but a warning, a disturbance, a shape of motion written in living light. One major theory is that the giant squid's enormous eyes help it notice sperm whales. Sperm whales are among the squid's most important predators. They dive into deep water to hunt, sometimes reaching depths of more than 1,000 meters. A sperm whale moving through dark water is not a small event. It is a massive body pushing through the sea. It may disturb glowing organisms as it moves. To a giant squid, that disturbance might appear as a faint cloud or shimmer far away in the blackness. A smaller eye might not gather enough light to notice it early. A huge eye might. That early warning could matter. Even a few extra seconds could allow the squid to turn, drift away, jet backward, or prepare for contact. This changes the feeling of the giant squid. Those eyes are often imagined as frightening because they are so large, but they may come from vulnerability as much as power. They may belong to an animal that needs to watch the dark because something larger is hunting there too. The giant squid is a predator, but it is not the ruler of the deep. It has its own fears written into its body. Its long tentacles help it reach prey. Its suckers help it grip. Its beak helps it cut food into pieces. But its eyes may be shaped by the need to survive encounters with a diving whale. So the giant squid becomes more complete. Not just a mysterious hunter waiting in black water. Not just the source of old sea stories. A living animal caught inside a quiet balance. Searching for food, saving energy, reading faint light, and watching for the enormous shape of danger moving through the dark. The danger moving through the darkness has a name: the sperm whale. It is the largest toothed predator alive today. A large male can reach around 50 to 60 feet long, with a huge square-shaped head and a narrow lower jaw lined with teeth. Unlike baleen whales, which filter tiny animals from the water, sperm whales hunt. They dive into deep water, search with sound, and feed on squid, fish, and other animals hidden far below the surface. Their dives can last close to an hour, and some can reach depths beyond 1,000 meters. That means the sperm whale can enter the same dark world where giant squid live. It leaves the bright surface, takes one deep breath, and descends into cold water, where sunlight fades behind it. The whale does not need to see the way surface animals see. It uses echolocation. Echolocation means sending out sharp sounds and listening for the echoes that bounce back. The whale's clicks can travel through water, strike an object, and return with information about distance, shape, and movement. In the darkness, sound becomes a way of mapping space. A fish, a squid, a slope of the seafloor, a moving body ahead. For the giant squid, this makes the deep sea more dangerous than it first appears. The dark may hide the squid from human eyes, but it does not hide it completely from a hunting whale. Some of the strongest evidence for this relationship comes from inside sperm whale stomachs. When sperm whales feed on squid, the soft parts are digested. But squid beaks are much harder. They are made of chitin, the same tough material found in crab shells and insect bodies. Because of this, the beaks can remain after the rest of the squid has broken down. For many years, these beaks helped scientists understand what sperm whales were eating far below the surface. Some whale stomachs have contained hundreds, or even thousands, of squid beaks from many meals over time. Among them, researchers have found beaks from large squid, including giant squid. It is a quiet kind of proof. Not a chase seen directly, not a full scene witnessed by human eyes. Just a dark, curved beak resting inside the body of an animal that returned from the deep. The whale carries the evidence back upward. The ocean hides the event, then leaves a record inside the predator. The skin of sperm whales gives another clue. Many sperm whales, especially older males, have pale circular marks on their heads and bodies. These marks are often linked to squid suckers. A giant squid's arms and tentacles are lined with round suction cups. Some suckers have hard rings with tiny tooth-like edges. When they press against skin, they can leave circular scars. The scars do not mean the squid is winning some great battle. They simply show contact. They show that whale and squid have met in the dark. They show that the giant squid, for all its size, is part of a food web. That reversal matters. In old stories, the giant squid or kraken was often imagined as the danger, the creature below the ship, the monster rising from black water. But in its own world, the giant squid is not only a hunter, it is also hunted. Its long tentacles may reach for prey, but its huge eyes may be watching for a whale. Its body may be large enough to frighten people on shore, but in the deep sea, it shares the water with an animal heavier, louder, warmer, and far more powerful. This does not make the giant squid less impressive. It makes it more real. Real animals do not exist as symbols alone. They live inside pressure, hunger, risk, and timing. The sperm whale dives because it must eat. The squid watches because it must survive. Somewhere far below the waves, beyond the reach of ordinary light, these two animals move through the same black space. And the real drama is not a squid attacking a ship. It is a whale and a squid meeting in the cold deep, where almost no one has ever seen them together. That meeting between whale and squid is one of the great hidden scenes of the ocean. It may happen in darkness. It may happen more than 1,000 meters below the surface. It may happen where the pressure is strong enough to crush ordinary cameras and where no sunlight reaches at all. At the surface, a sperm whale looks slow and calm. It rests between dives, breathing through a blowhole set slightly to the left side of its head. Then it arches its back, lifts its tail, and slips downward. The dive begins quietly, but below the waves, the whale becomes a deep-sea hunter. Its body holds oxygen in the blood and muscles. Its heart rate can slow to save that oxygen. Its lungs compress as pressure increases. The whale is not fighting the deep ocean the way a human would. It is built to enter it. Down below, the giant squid is also at home. Its soft body does not hold large air spaces. Its arms can move through the water without needing solid ground. Its eyes can gather faint light in a place where almost everything depends on small signals. These two animals share a world that humans mostly know from instruments. Hydrophones can record whale clicks. A hydrophone is an underwater microphone. Deep-sea cameras can catch brief scenes in black water. Submersibles can descend with thick, pressure-resistant walls. But even with all this technology, the direct meeting of sperm whale and giant squid is almost never seen. So people have learned about it through what remains afterward. A round scar on the pale grey skin of a whale, a hard squid beak found in a stomach, a torn piece of arm preserved in a museum jar, a stranded body that arrives on a beach after its life is already over. These are not full scenes. They are traces. They are like footprints after an animal has passed through snow. They are like broken pottery at an old campsite. They are like scratch marks on a tree after the bear is gone. The event itself has disappeared, but the marks say something happened. This is why the whale and squid encounter can feel almost archaeological. Archaeologists study the past through objects left behind. A stone tool, a wall foundation, a bone with a cut mark, a cooking pit filled with ash. From these pieces, they rebuild a life they never saw. The study of giant squid and sperm whales often works in a similar way. The deep ocean keeps the full moment hidden, but it allows small signs to return. The scars on sperm whales have a quiet power because they show contact. They suggest a squid's suckers pressed against the whale's skin. Some marks may come from giant squid. Others may come from different large squid. The ocean contains more than one kind of deep water cephalopod, and the marks are not always easy to read. Still, the pattern is clear enough to show that sperm whales and large squid meet in the dark. The beaks tell their own story. A squid's beak is small compared with its full body, but it can survive where soft tissue cannot. Inside a whale, the mantle, arms, and organs may digest away. The beak remains, dark and curved, a tiny hard shape that once sat at the center of a much larger animal. When many beaks are found together, they show repeated feeding. Not one strange accident, not one rare meeting, a pattern of hunting. But the word battle can be misleading if it makes the scene too simple. A sperm whale is not a villain. A giant squid is not a monster. Both are animals doing what their bodies were shaped to do. The whale needs food to power a warm-blooded body that must return to the surface for air. The squid needs to survive long enough to grow, hunt, and reproduce in a world where danger can arrive through darkness. There may be struggle. There may be sudden movement, grip, escape, and pressure. But beneath the drama is ordinary survival. One animal feeding, one animal resisting, a food web continuing in a place no human eye can easily follow. And that softer truth matters, because once the old image of a grand sea battle quiets down, the giant squid becomes even more interesting. Not as a creature locked forever in combat with whales, but as a living animal with its own daily needs, its own prey, its own careful movements, and its own way of finding food in the deep. The giant squid's life is not only shaped by what hunts it, it is also shaped by what it can catch. In the deep ocean, food is not always gathered in bright, crowded places. Prey may pass alone through the dark. A fish may drift through the twilight zone. A smaller squid may move upward or downward through the water. A shrimp-like animal may flicker for a moment, then vanish again into blackness. For the giant squid, feeding likely depends on patience and reach. It does not seem built for endless chasing. Its body is long and soft. Its fins can help it steady itself. Its siphon can send it backward in a sudden jet. But the most important hunting tools may be the two long feeding tentacles. These tentacles can extend well beyond the shorter arms. At their ends are wider pads called clubs. The clubs are lined with suckers that can grip slippery prey. Some of the suckers have hard rings with tiny tooth-like edges, giving them a stronger hold. In cold, dark water, that grip matters. A fish is smooth. A squid is flexible. A struggling animal can twist away quickly. The giant squid needs to hold on before the meal disappears into the darkness. Once prey is caught, the tentacles can pull it inward toward the 8 shorter arms. Those arms help gather and control the food near the mouth. At the center is the hard beak. The beak cuts the prey into smaller pieces. Behind it, the rough tongue-like radula helps move food inward. This system turns the giant squid's strange body into a quiet feeding machine. Long reach first, grip second, pull inward, cut carefully, swallow in pieces. Stomach contents from giant squid specimens have shown remains of fish and other squid. This is one of the main ways scientists learn what they eat. A dead squid may not show how it hunted, but its stomach can show traces of its last meals. Fragments of fish bones, pieces of squid tissue, small hard parts that survived digestion long enough to be recognized. These remains suggest that giant squid are active predators, not gentle drifters feeding only on whatever falls from above. They hunt living animals in the deep. Their prey world is different from the surface ocean. Near the surface, tuna may chase schools of fish through bright blue water. Seabirds may dive from above. Dolphins may herd fish together. But the giant squid lives in a quieter, wider space. The prey may be scattered. The light may be weak. The chance to feed may depend on detecting motion before it is too late. That makes long tentacles useful. Instead of moving the whole body toward every possible meal, the squid can keep its body farther back and send its reach forward. It can let the tentacles do the final distance. This is not the feeding style of a monster trying to grab ships. It is the feeding style of a deep-sea animal trying to survive. The scale can feel strange because the animal is so large. A creature longer than a school bus can still be hunting fish and squid in the dark, using precision rather than chaos. Its body may look dramatic when seen on a beach, stretched and pale under daylight. But in the water, Each part has a calmer purpose. The eyes notice faint movement. The tentacles close the distance. The suckers hold. The arms gather. The beak cuts. The squid feeds, then returns to the slow work of saving energy until another chance appears. This is where the old fear begins to soften. The giant squid is not waiting below the waves for humans. It is not designed around ships, sailors, or stories. It is designed around prey that live in deep water. It belongs to a food web of fish, squid, whales, and darkness. And once its feeding becomes clear, the old image of the human hunting sea monster starts to fade, leaving behind something quieter and more real. The old monster begins to fade when the giant squid is placed back into its real home. A creature that feeds on deep-sea fish and other squid is not built around human beings. It is built around darkness, around pressure, around prey that moves through cold water far below the reach of ordinary swimmers. Most people enter only the thinnest upper layer of the ocean. A swimmer may be in the top few feet. A snorkeler may stay near the sunlit surface. Even many scuba dives happen in the first 30 or 40 meters. The giant squid belongs much deeper than that. It is linked with deep ocean zones hundreds of meters below the surface, where the water is dim, cold, and difficult to reach. That distance matters. A human and a giant squid do not usually share the same space. The animal does not rise each night to search for boats. It does not patrol beaches. It does not wait below swimmers. It lives in a world of fish, squid, whales, pressure, and faint light. There are old stories of huge squid or octopus-like creatures grabbing at ships, boats, or sailors. Some were told by people who spent months at sea, where storms, darkness, and exhaustion could turn a rare sight into something larger in memory. Some may have begun with real animals seen in unusual moments. A dead giant squid floating near the surface. A long arm caught on fishing gear. A wounded animal thrashing near a boat. A sperm whale struggling with large squid somewhere offshore. But many reports are difficult to verify. They were written before underwater cameras, before DNA testing, before modern deep-sea biology, before scientists had enough specimens to compare one large squid with another. In that older world, a sailor might see one long pale tentacle in rough water and not know what animal it belonged to. A stranded squid might be measured after its tentacles had stretched. A damaged body might look larger and stranger than it did in life. Stories could travel from port to port, changing a little each time. A real sighting could become a frightening tale. A frightening tale could become a legend. This does not mean the giant squid is harmless in the way a tame animal is harmless. It is a wild predator. Its arms have suckers. Its beak can cut flesh. Its tentacles are made to seize living prey. A living giant squid, handled by a person, would not be safe, especially if it was stressed, trapped, or injured. But that is different from saying it hunts people. There is no strong evidence that giant squid normally attack humans as prey. Their food is found in the deep sea. Their predators are deep-diving animals like sperm whales. Their lives unfold far away from the usual human world. The safest way to understand them is not as friendly or evil. Those are human ideas. The giant squid is neither. It is rare, wild, and poorly observed. It reacts to its surroundings according to the needs of its body. Food, escape, pressure, darkness, reproduction, survival. A shark near a reef may interact with divers because it lives where divers sometimes go. A bear may encounter people because forest paths overlap. A giant squid has fewer chances for that kind of meeting because its normal world is hidden beneath hundreds of meters of water. This is why the fear is so different from the reality. The legend placed the giant squid at the surface, beside ships and sailors. Science places it deeper, in a cold space where humans arrive only with machines. The creature did not become less strange when the fear softened. It became more specific, more real. A long-bodied cephalopod, a deep-water hunter, a prey animal for whales, a rare visitor to the surface, usually seen only when something has gone wrong. And still, the stories grew. They grew across centuries of sea travel, across foggy coastlines, across wooden ships and candlelit maps. If the danger was larger in the telling than it was in life, then the size of the legend says something too. Not only about the squid, but about the ocean that kept showing people just enough to wonder. A long arm in the water, a strange body on the shore, a whale returning to the surface with marks on its skin, a story told by someone who had seen something pale and enormous beside a boat, but only for a moment. Before modern science, these moments had nowhere clear to go. People did not have underwater cameras. They did not have deep-sea submersibles. They did not have DNA tests, preserved museum collections, or careful maps of deep ocean life. They had eyes, memory, fear, and the long habit of telling stories after a voyage. That was enough for a real animal to become something much larger in the human imagination. The Kraken is one of the most famous examples. In northern European sea stories, especially from Norway and nearby regions, the Kraken was described as a huge creature of the deep. Some accounts made it island-sized. Others imagined arms strong enough to pull ships down. In the 1700s, the Norwegian writer and bishop Erik Pontoppidan described the Kraken in a natural history book about Norway. His description mixed observation, rumor, and older sea tradition. He wrote at a time when many strange animals were still poorly known. The giant squid had not yet been photographed. It had not been filmed alive. It had not even been fully separated from legend in the public imagination. So a huge squid-like animal could sit in the space between nature and myth. Not fully false, not fully understood. A sailor might see part of a stranded squid and never see the whole living animal. A tentacle alone can look impossible. Long, pale, lined with round suckers, and unlike the limb of any familiar animal on land. If that tentacle was found wrapped in fishing gear or floating near a boat, it could seem as though something below had reached upward. A dead giant squid can also look more frightening than a living one. Soft bodies change after death. Skin loosens, tissue stretches, arms twist. The mantle may swell or tear. An animal that once moved with control through deep water may wash ashore looking distorted and strange. On a rocky beach in cold morning light, it would not look like a calm piece of biology. It would look like evidence of something unknown. Ships made the story stronger because ships were small compared with the sea. Even large wooden sailing vessels were surrounded by water on every side. At night, crews heard waves strike the hull. Fog could hide the horizon. Storms could lift the sea into dark walls. A glimpse of something large in that setting would not feel ordinary. It would arrive already wrapped in fear. And when the story was told later, the creature could grow. A tentacle became many. A stranded body became an attack. A whale and squid struggle, glimpsed from far away, became proof of a monster beneath the surface. This is how myths often form. They are not always invented from nothing. Many begin when people see something real without having the tools to explain it. A fossil bone becomes a dragon. A volcanic eruption becomes the anger of a god. A giant squid becomes the Kraken. The story is not accurate in every detail, but it is not meaningless. It points toward a real encounter between human imagination and an unexplained natural thing. The giant squid was especially good at creating this kind of story because it crossed so many boundaries. It was real, but rarely seen. Large, but soft. Animal, but almost alien in shape. Close enough to wash ashore, yet distant enough to remain mysterious. Its body belonged to science, but its outline belonged to dreams. And this is why the old stories should not be dismissed too quickly. They did not give the right measurements. They did not explain the mantle, the siphon, the gladius, the beak, or the deep-sea food web. But they kept a memory of something important. There was a large animal below the waves. It had arms. It came from darkness. And for centuries, people were trying, in the only way they could, to describe a hidden life they could not yet reach. For a long time, the giant squid was known more as evidence than as behavior. Science had names, measurements, preserved specimens, beaks, arms, reports from beaches and ships. But it still did not have the simple thing that changes how an animal feels. A clear view of it alive. By the late 1800s and early 1900s, the giant squid was no longer only a sea story. Specimens had been collected from places like Newfoundland, Norway, New Zealand, and Japan. Museums could preserve pieces of the animal in jars. Scientists could measure the mantle, count the arms, study the suckers, and compare the hard beaks found inside sperm whales. They could place the giant squid within the cephalopods, the same larger group that includes octopuses, cuttlefish, and smaller squid. But a preserved body is still a quiet thing. It cannot show how the animal holds itself in water. It cannot show whether the arms hang loosely, curl inward, or spread slightly as the squid drifts. It cannot show how fast the tentacles extend when prey comes close. It cannot show the color of the skin in the deep, or how that color changes with stress, light, or movement. A dead specimen can tell what parts exist. A living animal shows what those parts do. That difference matters. Seeing a bird's wing in a museum is not the same as watching a gull tilt over the sea wind. Seeing a wolf's skull is not the same as watching the animal step through snow. Seeing the giant squid on a beach is not the same as watching it move in black water, where the body is supported from every side and the long tentacles can float without dragging on the ground. The ocean had given scientists still frames from a movie they had never watched. A beak from one scene, a sucker from another, a pale mantle washed ashore after the ending had already passed. From these pieces, they could rebuild the shape, but not the rhythm. And rhythm is part of life. How an animal pauses, how it turns, how it approaches food, how it reacts to light, how it disappears when disturbed. For the giant squid, those details remained hidden for an unusually long time because the animal's home was so hard to reach. A researcher could not simply walk into its habitat with binoculars. A camera could not be placed beside a nest or watering hole. There was no open field where tracks crossed at dawn. There was only open ocean, sometimes hundreds of meters deep, sometimes far from shore, with the animal suspended somewhere inside a huge moving volume of water. Even when deep-sea equipment improved, the challenge remained enormous. The camera had to be lowered into the right place. It had to survive pressure. It needed light, but not so much light that it scared animals away. It needed bait, or patience, or luck. And the giant squid had to pass close enough to be seen. This made the animal feel almost untouched by modern observation. Humans had photographed the moon before they clearly photographed a living giant squid in its natural deep-sea world. People had mapped continents, crossed oceans by steamship, built submarines, and sent spacecraft beyond Earth, while this large animal still moved mostly unseen beneath the surface of its own planet. That is part of the quiet wonder here. The giant squid was not hiding in another galaxy. It was not living on a distant moon. It was here on Earth, in the same ocean that touches beaches and harbors and fishing towns. Yet the distance between the surface and its world was enough to keep its living image out of reach. For science to move beyond remains, something had to enter the darkness without demanding that the animal come to us. The first true breakthrough would not come from the shore. It would come from sending a patient eye down into the water and letting the deep sea decide what passed in front of it. The patient eye finally went down into the water, not as a diver, not as a submarine chasing the animal through the dark, but as a quiet camera system, lowered into the giant squid's world and left to wait. In 2004, Japanese researchers Tsunemi Kubodera and Kyoichi Mori captured the first photographs of a live giant squid in its natural deep-sea habitat. The work took place near the Ogasawara Islands, a remote chain of volcanic islands south of Tokyo. The area drops quickly into deep water, making it a useful place to search for animals that live far below the surface. Instead of trying to follow the squid directly, the researchers used a baited camera system. Bait was attached to a line, and the camera was suspended in the water with it. This was important. A human diver could not simply swim down to that depth and wait. A noisy vehicle might disturb the animal. A bright moving machine might push it away before anything could be learned. The camera had to become part of the deep-sea stillness. It had to wait in one place while the ocean moved around it. The bait was meant to draw in deep-sea predators. And eventually, something long and pale appeared. At around 900 meters down, nearly 3,000 feet below the surface, a giant squid came into view. At that depth, The pressure is around 90 times greater than the pressure at sea level. Sunlight is gone. The water is cold. The camera is no longer looking into a place that feels human. It is looking into the private space of an animal that had avoided clear observation for centuries. The squid approached the bait and wrapped its long feeding tentacles around it. For the first time, science was not looking at a dead body on a beach. It was not looking at a beak from a whale's stomach. It was not looking at a preserved arm floating in a jar. It was looking at a living giant squid in the water where it belonged. The images were not calm portraits. They were evidence of action. The squid was reaching, gripping, and interacting with the bait. Its body appeared in the dark as a pale, living shape. Its arms and tentacles showed the same strange design that had been pieced together from dead specimens. But now those parts were working. The animal was no longer only anatomy. It was behavior. The camera took hundreds of images as the encounter continued. At one point, part of one tentacle became caught on the baited gear and later broke away. That broken piece became another kind of evidence because it could be examined directly after the camera system was recovered. It connected the living images to physical tissue. A photograph in the dark, a piece of tentacle brought back to the surface. The old pattern of clues had not disappeared, but it had changed. Now the clue came from a living encounter. That moment was a major shift in the history of the giant squid. For more than a century, the animal had been known mostly through remains. Suddenly, it had been seen in its own environment. The deep ocean had allowed a small opening. Not a full story, not a complete life, but a living presence. This matters because photography does more than prove existence. It changes scale into reality. A number like 40 feet can be hard to feel. A preserved specimen can seem separate from life. But a living animal reaching through dark water makes the measurement settle into place. The giant squid is no longer only a size, a name, or a legend. It is an animal making choices, approaching food, extending tentacles, holding on in the cold. Still, a photograph has limits. It freezes time. It captures a shape, but not the full rhythm of movement. It shows that the squid arrived, but not where it came from. It shows contact with bait, but not how the animal hunts when no camera is there. The 2004 images prove the giant squid could be reached by patient science, but they also made the hidden parts feel even larger. A still image had finally opened the door. What remained behind that door was motion. Motion changed the giant squid again. A photograph had shown that the animal could be reached, but video showed that it could arrive, pause, turn, and move through darkness as a living presence. In 2012, a deep-sea camera system called Medusa helped capture rare footage of a giant squid in its natural habitat off Japan. Medusa stands for a long technical name, but its purpose was simple. It was a quiet underwater observer. Instead of using bright white lights that might scare deep-sea animals away, it used a softer red light. Many deep-sea animals are less sensitive to red light because red wavelengths disappear quickly underwater. To them, red light may be much less noticeable than bright white light. This made Medusa different from many older deep-sea camera systems. It did not try to force the deep ocean open with harsh brightness. It tried to watch more gently. The system also used a special lure called an electronic jellyfish. This lure copied the glowing pattern made by some deep-sea jellyfish when they are disturbed. In the deep ocean, a flash of bioluminescence can be a signal. It can mean prey is moving. It can mean a predator has touched something. It can mean that life is active nearby. The idea was that a large predator might notice the glow and come closer to investigate. And in the dark water near the Ogasawara Islands, that is what happened. A giant squid appeared, not washed onto shore, not stretched on a museum table, not floating lifeless at the surface, alive, in its own world. The footage showed the animal in black water, its long arms and tentacles extending from the body, its huge eye catching the faint light. For a moment, the giant squid was no longer only a shape reconstructed from remains. It was moving. Its body held itself in the water. Its arms shifted. It approached with intention. It seemed to emerge from the darkness in the slow, quiet way deep-sea animals often do, not as a monster charging upward, but as a hunter drawn toward a signal. That is why video matters so much. A still image can prove that something was there. Video shows how it was there. The angle of the body, the reach of the arms, the way the animal approaches, holds position, and reacts. The way the darkness surrounds it, the way its pale form appears and disappears against the black water. This kind of footage helps science ask better questions. Does the squid approach prey directly or slowly? Does it rely more on sight or touch? Does it hold its arms forward? Does it drift, hover, or pulse with the mantle? Does it flee from light? Or does it ignore certain kinds of light? Even a short video can reveal details that a dead specimen never could. A preserved squid can show the suckers. A living squid can show how those suckers are carried through the water. A preserved eye can show size. A living eye can show where the animal seems to look. A preserved tentacle can show length. A living tentacle can show reach. Later, rare giant squid footage was also recorded in the Gulf of Mexico. That was important because it showed the animal was not only a distant legend of Japanese waters or northern stories. Giant squid live across wide parts of the world's oceans, though they remain difficult to find almost everywhere. The Gulf of Mexico footage added another quiet confirmation. The animal could appear in different deep-sea regions, briefly entering the small circle where human technology could see it. Still, these moments are rare. That rarity is part of the story. By 2012, people had mapped the seafloor in broad outlines. They had sent robotic vehicles into trenches. They had filmed the volcanic vents, deep-sea fish, and strange glowing animals. Yet a giant squid, one of the most famous creatures on Earth, had still barely allowed itself to be seen alive. The video did not end the mystery. It gave the mystery movement. It turned the giant squid from a specimen into a presence, from a legend into an animal, from a pale body in a tank into a soft shape moving through black water. And because those few seconds were so hard to capture, they showed something else just as clearly. The giant squid had been reached, but it had not become easy to know. The giant squid had been reached, but only briefly. A few photographs, a few rare videos, a pale body moving through black water for a short moment before the deep sea closed around it again. That is because filming the giant squid is not like filming an animal on land. A trail camera in a forest can sit beside a path for weeks. It can wait for a fox, a deer, or a bear to pass by. The ground stays still. The trees stay in place. The camera points into a space where animals are likely to walk. The deep ocean does not work that way. A camera lowered into deep water is hanging inside a vast moving space. Above it is more water. Below it is more water. On every side, there may be hundreds or thousands of meters where an animal could pass without ever coming into view. Even if a giant squid is nearby, nearby can still mean far enough to be invisible. The equipment itself has to survive a world that is hard on machines. At 900 meters down, the pressure is about 90 times greater than at the surface. At 1,000 meters, it is about 100 times greater. Every cable, battery case, camera lens, light, seal, and metal frame has to resist that pressure. A tiny weakness can let water in. And at those depths, water does not simply leak gently. It can force its way through small openings with enough pressure to destroy electronics. Darkness adds another problem. A camera needs light to see, but deep-sea animals may avoid bright light. Many of them live in a world where natural light comes as faint flashes, glows, and pulses. A sudden white beam may not feel like part of their normal environment. It may be more like a warning. So researchers have to make careful choices. Use enough light to film. Use little enough light not to drive the animal away. Some systems use red light because red wavelengths disappear quickly in seawater. And many deep-sea animals may not notice red as strongly as other colors. But even that is not a perfect solution. A camera is still a foreign object. It has a shape, a scent, an electrical field, and sometimes a sound. If it is attached to a vessel, the ship above may add engine noise, vibrations, cables, and movement. Water carries sound very well. A low rumble can travel far. A deep-sea animal that depends on subtle signals may sense the disturbance long before it reaches the camera. Battery life also matters. A camera cannot wait forever. Lights, sensors, and recording systems use power. In shallow places, a researcher can replace a battery or adjust a camera by hand. In the deep ocean, recovering equipment may require a ship, cables, winches, floats, and careful timing. If the camera is watching the wrong dark patch of water, its battery may run down before anything important appears. Bait can help, but bait changes the scene. A piece of fish or squid may attract scavengers, sharks, smaller fish, crustaceans, and deep-sea predators. It may bring the giant squid close enough to film, but it also creates a situation that may not match ordinary hunting. The squid is not simply moving through its natural day. It is responding to an unusual smell, an unusual object, or an unusual glow placed there by humans. That does not make the footage useless. It only means the footage has to be understood carefully. A filmed encounter can show how the squid approaches, reaches, grips, and reacts. but it may not show how it behaves when no bait is present. It may not show where it spends most of its time. It may not show how often it feeds, how it meets other giant squid, or how it avoids sperm whales. This is the quiet limit of deep-sea science. Even success is partial. A camera can open a small window in the darkness, but the window is narrow. The giant squid may pass through it once, then vanish into a larger life that remains mostly unseen. And so each rare image teaches something real, while also reminding us that the animal's ordinary world is still far wider than the frame. The frame is narrow, but the clues are many. A giant squid may appear on camera for only a few seconds. Then it is gone again, back into the black water beyond the light. So science has to build the animal slowly, from many kinds of evidence. A stranded body on a beach can show size. A preserved specimen in a museum can show anatomy. A beak inside a sperm whale can show feeding relationships. A scar on whale skin can show contact. A piece of tissue can carry DNA. A few seconds of footage can show movement. None of these clues gives the whole life of the animal, but together they begin to form a shape. This is how many deep-sea animals are understood, not through long daily observation, but through patient reconstruction. A single giant squid specimen can teach a great deal. The mantle can be measured. The arms can be counted and compared. The suckers can be examined. The beak can be removed and studied. The eye can be measured. The stomach can be opened to look for traces of prey. Even a damaged body can still hold useful information if scientists record it carefully. But one specimen is never enough. A single animal might be unusually large or unusually small. It might be young, old, injured, or distorted after death. The tentacles might be stretched. The mantle might be damaged. The body might have floated for days before washing ashore. So the larger picture comes from many specimens gathered over time. One from Newfoundland, one from Norway, one from New Zealand, one from Japan, one from the waters near Spain, one from the stomach of a sperm whale, one from a preserved collection that has sat for decades in a museum. Each one adds a quiet detail. Over time, patterns begin to appear. Giant squid are found in many of the world's oceans. They are especially known from deep waters near continental slopes and island chains, where the seafloor drops away into darker zones. They are not evenly seen everywhere, because sightings depend on where people fish, where whales are studied, where currents carry dead animals, and where research vessels go. So their map is partly a map of the squid, and partly a map of human attention. DNA helps make that map clearer. DNA is the instruction code inside living cells. When scientists take a small piece of tissue from a squid, they can compare its DNA with tissue from other specimens. This can show whether two animals are closely related, whether they belong to the same species, or whether there are hidden differences that the outside body does not reveal. For giant squid, genetic studies have suggested that animals from far apart regions may be surprisingly closely related. That hints at a wide ocean population, connected across great distances by currents, drifting young, or long movement through deep water. Even the tiny young squid matter. Giant squid do not begin life as giants. They hatch from eggs as small, delicate young, nothing like the enormous adults people imagine. The early life stages are still poorly known, which means even basic parts of the life cycle remain difficult to see. Where do the youngest giant squid spend their time? How quickly do they grow? How far do they drift before becoming deep water hunters? Some answers are hidden in tissue, stomach contents, and rare juvenile specimens. Others are still waiting in the water. This makes the giant squid feel less like an animal fully captured by science, and more like a picture slowly assembled from scattered pieces. A beak here, an eye there, a tentacle, a scar, a gene sequence, a video frame. The animal is real, but the story remains incomplete. And as those pieces collect, they reveal something even wider than the giant squid itself. The deep ocean was not hiding only one enormous cephalopod. There are other large squid in the dark, with different bodies, different weapons, and different ways of belonging to the same cold world. The giant squid is not the only enormous squid in the deep. Another animal waits in the colder waters of the Southern Ocean. The colossal squid. Its scientific name is Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni. It lives mostly around Antarctica, in a world of cold currents, deep water, and long seasonal darkness. At first, the names can be confusing. Giant squid, colossal squid. They sound like two ways of describing the same creature, but they are different animals. The giant squid belongs to the genus Archeology. The colossal squid belongs to a different group, and its body is built in a different way. The giant squid is famous for length. With its two long feeding tentacles included, it can reach lengths often compared to a school bus. But much of that length comes from those tentacles stretching far beyond the body. The colossal squid is usually described as shorter in total length, but heavier and thicker. It is less like a long ribbon of reach and more like a powerful deep-sea body. One preserved colossal squid specimen from Antarctic waters weighed about 490 kilograms. That is more than 1,000 pounds. By comparison, giant squid are often listed at up to about 275 kilograms, or a little over 600 pounds. So the giant squid may win in length, but the colossal squid may be the heavier animal. That difference changes how each creature feels. The giant squid seems stretched, pale, and reaching. The colossal squid seems denser, heavier, and more compact. Both are soft-bodied cephalopods. Both have arms, tentacles, suckers, beaks, and huge eyes. But their hunting tools are not exactly the same. The giant squid is strongly linked with long tentacles and sucker rings. Those suckers can grip prey, and some have hard edges that leave marks. The colossal squid has something even more striking on its tentacle clubs. Sharp, swiveling hooks. A tentacle club is the wider pad at the end of a feeding tentacle. In the colossal squid, these clubs carry rotating hooks that can dig into prey and help hold it. They are not there for decoration. They are tools for gripping slippery animals in cold, dark water. Some hooks can turn slightly, which may help them stay attached when prey struggles. This gives the colossal squid a more armored feeling, even though its body is still soft. It is another reminder that deep-sea life can be gentle in movement and severe in design at the same time. Both giant squid and colossal squid are prey for sperm whales. But the colossal squid is especially tied to the Southern Ocean food web, where sperm whales dive into cold Antarctic waters to hunt. In whale stomachs, scientists have found squid beaks that show what these whales have eaten. A beak can survive digestion long after soft flesh is gone. So once again, the deep ocean gives information in pieces. A beak, a hook, a scar, a body brought up by a fishing vessel. The colossal squid also shows how little the surface tells us about life below. For a long time, it was known mostly from remains found in whale stomachs. Then, larger specimens helped reveal its true size. One large specimen was brought up by a fishing vessel in 2007 in Antarctic waters. It gave scientists a rare chance to study a body that most people would never see alive. Its eyes were enormous. Its arms were thick. Its hooks looked like deep-sea tools built for holding prey in a place where escape happens quickly. So the story widens. The giant squid is not a single strange exception. It is part of a larger truth. The deep ocean can produce animals that seem almost unreal because their bodies answer problems most people never face. Darkness, pressure, cold, scattered food, large predators, long distances between chances to eat. One squid becomes long and reaching. Another becomes heavier, stronger, and armed with hooks. Both belong to the same hidden scale of life, and together they make the deep sea feel larger than one legend, larger than one species, and larger than one rare photograph. The ocean is not hiding only one giant. It is holding an entire world of forms that rarely rise high enough for human eyes to meet them. The giant squid has become more than one animal. It is a way of understanding the ocean itself. Its story begins with myth, but it does not end there. It passes through stranded bodies, whale stomachs, museum jars, deep-sea cameras, red light, baited lines, and a few rare moments of movement in black water. Each part of the story shows the same quiet truth. A large animal can live on Earth and still remain difficult to know. Not because it is supernatural, not because it is hiding with intention, but because its home is hard for humans to enter. The deep ocean is close in distance, but far in access. A person can stand on a beach and look out across the water. The giant squid's world may begin only a few hundred meters below that surface. Compared with the Moon or Mars or the outer planets, that distance sounds small. A few hundred meters, 1,000 meters, a few kilometers down. And yet, in practical terms, it can be harder to witness than places far beyond Earth. Light cannot pass freely through it. Pressure rises with every 10 meters of depth. Salt water damages machines. Sound travels in strange ways. Currents move equipment. Batteries run down. Cameras see only narrow windows of darkness. The deep sea is not empty, but it resists being watched. That is what the giant squid teaches so well. It was not hidden because it was tiny. It was not hidden because it lived in one small cave or one remote lake. It was hidden while being huge. An animal that could reach lengths longer than a school bus remained mostly unseen alive until the 21st century. That fact changes the way the ocean feels. It means size alone does not make life visible. A whale must surface to breathe, so people can see it. A seal rests on ice. A shark may cross shallow water. A seabird nests on cliffs. But a giant squid does not need the air. It does not need land. It does not need sunlight. It can spend its life in a three-dimensional darkness that touches the surface world only through rare accidents. This is why the giant squid connects so many ideas at once. It connects biology, because its body shows how life adapts to pressure, cold, dim light, and scattered prey. It connects mythology, because old stories tried to explain strange remains long before science could reach the animal's home. It connects technology, because cameras, lights, submersibles, ships, cables, and patient observation were needed just to glimpse it alive. It connects predator and prey, because sperm whales carry signs of the squid's world back to the surface in scars and beaks. And it connects human limits, because even after all of that effort, the animal's ordinary life is still only partly seen. The deep ocean covers most of the planet's living space. Below the sunlit surface, there are slopes, trenches, plains, seamounts, vents, and cold open water that stretch farther than any human city, forest, or road. Much of it is dark all the time. Much of it has never been watched closely. There are animals there that glow, drift, hunt, filter, hide, and move in ways that still feel unfamiliar. The giant squid is one of the famous ones. But fame does not mean familiarity. It is famous because it remained distant, because it stood at the edge between story and science for so long, because it reminds us that Earth still has hidden rooms. The old monster image begins to dissolve here. What remains is not less powerful. It is more peaceful, and in some ways more humbling. A real animal, soft-bodied and watchful, shaped by millions of years in a place where humans arrive only briefly. The giant squid is no longer just something imagined beneath ships. It becomes a symbol of how much the ocean still withholds, even now, while waves move calmly above it. The giant squid becomes calmer when its strangeness is understood. Its size is strange at first. Its eyes are strange. Its long tentacles are strange. Its hidden life feels almost unreal because most people will never see it alive. But each part of the animal has a reason. The size helps it reach, store energy, handle larger prey, and survive in open water where meals may be far apart. The eyes help it gather faint light in a place where sunlight no longer reaches clearly. The tentacles help it catch prey without moving its whole body through the dark. The soft mantle lets it live without heavy bones, supported by water instead of standing on land. Even the beak, hidden at the center of all those arms, has a simple purpose. It cuts food into pieces small enough to swallow safely. Nothing about the giant squid is designed around human fear. Its body was not shaped to haunt ships. It was not shaped to appear in stories. It was shaped by cold water, deep pressure, scattered prey, and the need to avoid predators like sperm whales. That shift matters. The old image was built from the surface looking down. A sailor on a ship, a body on a beach, a tentacle in rough water, a story passed between people who could not see what waited below. Science looks from the animal outward, from the mantle, from the eye, from the sucker, from the beak, from the pressure that surrounds it, from the darkness where its senses make sense. And slowly, the fear softens into recognition. The giant squid is not less mysterious when it becomes biological. It is mysterious in a better way. It is not a nightmare creature. It is a living animal solving the problems of its world. A world where the water may be only a few degrees above freezing. A world where pressure builds with every 10 meters of depth. A world where light arrives not as sunlight, but as small blue flashes from other living things. A world where a whale can descend from above, clicking through the dark with sound. In that place, the giant squid is neither evil nor gentle in the human sense. It is simply fitted to its life. It hunts because it needs food. It hides because being seen can be dangerous. It grows because size can help. It watches because the deep ocean is never fully empty. This is often where strange animals become comforting. At first, they seem unsettling because they do not match the shapes people know. An octopus changing color, a fish glowing in black water, a whale singing through miles of sea, a squid with eyes larger than dinner plates. But when the purpose behind the shape becomes clear, the animal stops feeling random. It becomes part of a pattern. The deep sea is not a place of chaos. It is a place of pressure, chemistry, movement, hunger, and adaptation. Life there has had millions of years to answer those conditions. The giant squid is one of those answers. Long and pale, soft and watchful, rarely seen but not lost, hidden but not imaginary. A creature that belongs completely to a world humans only visit for moments. And perhaps that is why it feels so peaceful to leave it there. Not dragged upward into legend, not turned into a monster for the surface, just moving somewhere far below the waves, in water cold enough to slow the body, dark enough to make every glow meaningful, and deep enough to keep its own quiet secrets. The ocean above may look calm from shore, a wide black surface under moonlight, small waves folding into themselves. But beneath that surface, the water still descends through layer after layer, into places where large animals can pass unseen. The giant squid reminds us that Earth is still wide enough, deep enough, and old enough to hold living mysteries in the dark. The giant squid leaves behind a quiet kind of wonder, not the loud wonder of a monster story, not the fear of something rising beneath a ship, but the softer wonder of realizing that discovery on Earth is not finished. This animal was once wrapped in myth. Then it became a set of clues. Then it became a named species. Then it became a preserved body in museum glass. Then, at last, it became a living shape in deep water. Photographed in 2004 and filmed in 2012. Each step brought it closer to understanding, but none of those steps made it ordinary. The giant squid still belongs mostly to the dark. Its world begins below the easy reach of human senses, below the surface light, below the familiar blue water, below the place where waves can be watched from shore. Down there, pressure builds with every 10 meters. Sunlight fades by the hundreds of meters. By about 1,000 meters, the ocean is no longer lit by the sky in any useful way. Yet life continues. Fish drift through the black water. Jelly-like animals glow with living light. Sperm whales descend to hunt. And somewhere in that cold space, a giant squid may hold itself almost still, its fins making small adjustments, its long tentacles ready, its enormous eyes reading faint changes in the dark. The old stories were not right in every detail. The giant squid is not a ship-sinking beast. It is not waiting for sailors. It is not a creature built around human fear. But the stories were reaching towards something real. They came from glimpses, remains, and half-understood evidence. A tentacle in the water, a pale body on a beach, a whale marked with circles, a beak found where no ordinary fish could explain it. People saw pieces of a hidden animal before they had the tools to understand the whole. That is part of what makes the giant squid feel so meaningful. It shows that nature can be both real and unfinished, measured but still mysterious, named but not fully known, seen but only briefly. The animal has a scientific name: Archeology ducks. It has arms, tentacles, suckers, a mantle, a siphon, a gladius, a beak, and eyes wider than any human hand can easily cover. Its body can be described. Its parts can be studied. Its tissue can be tested. But its life in the deep still remains partly outside the frame. How often it feeds, where the youngest giant squid drift, how it finds mates in the dark, how it avoids whales, how much of its world is shaped by sound, light, pressure, and motion. These questions do not make the animal less understood. They make the ocean feel larger. The giant squid is not proof that the sea is full of monsters. It is proof that nature still has hidden rooms. Some are not hidden far away in space. Some are not hidden on distant planets. Some are here, beneath waves that may look calm from a beach at night. A quiet surface can cover miles of depth. A familiar coastline can face water that holds creatures almost never seen alive. A world can be close and still remain distant. And maybe that is the peaceful lesson the giant squid leaves behind. Not every mystery has to be solved all at once. Some are approached slowly, with cameras lowered into darkness, with specimens studied carefully, with old stories reread more gently, with patience, humility, and enough wonder to let the unknown remain partly unknown. Somewhere below the moving surface, the deep ocean continues, layer after layer, cold, dark, pressurized, and alive. And in that darkness, the giant squid remains what it has always been. Not a nightmare, not a legend alone, but a real animal, moving through a part of Earth still spacious enough to hold giants.